We're ready? All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for coming tonight. I'm Tanya. I'm going to go ahead and give the presentation. Just over here we have parent training. Topic today is pairing with children. Of course, everybody knows where we are. Okay, so I'm Tanja Ramirez-Schwarz. I'm one of the BCBAs, and I graduated with my undergrad back in 2012 from UCF, and I have received my master's from Capella University in 2014. I got all my ABA training at the Scott Center for Autism Services, and I've been working at KI since March of this year. Fun fact about me is that I was actually a mom before I became a behavior analyst. So I also was in that part where I had no idea what they were talking about when I first started. So I understand where the confusion comes in sometimes. Okay, so overview for tonight. We're going to talk about what is pairing, the point of pairing. We're going to go over what reinforcers are. We're also going to talk about how to pair and some rules to follow. We're going to have a video model of pairing and some scenarios on pairing because every child is different. We're going to have some questions from you guys and from Facebook Live members. We're also going to have some parent training credit questions at the end, so you guys can write those down or just answer them. And then we can do some practice with pairing with feedback if you want it from me at the end. All right, so pairing with children. Learn effective ways to play with your child. This process can help establish and connect reinforcing activities and you. What is pairing? So the first thing, something's going to pop up here, and I want to know what pops into your head when you see this picture. And you guys can just kind of shoot it out to me. Disney. What does that make you think about when you think of Disney? Going to Disney, and that makes you feel happy, right? So most of the time we see Mickey and we think happy for the kids. They're probably super excited and, you know, everything's going good. So pairing, in this case, when you associate yourself with something, and for this one would be in case of something good. You can also associate yourself with pairing with something bad. So I see this, I think I'm about to get a ticket. I should have slowed down. Oh no, what happened? My lights are out. So not good things, right? So you can also associate yourself with bad things, but today we're only going to focus on good. So what's the point of pairing? Pairing with good things is to become fun and interesting. You also gain instructional control when placing demands, and you make yourself a reinforcer to that individual. So what that really means is the more you pair, the more likely the child is going to follow demands, follow instructions that you give. Also, it makes you fun and interesting, so that way the child wants to play with you more often and also be there. I don't know why this just went. Okay. And also just kind of interact with you more often. So a lot of times the kids in therapy, what they'll do is they'll get super excited when they see their favorite therapist, right? And usually that therapist has spent a lot of time pairing with them, so they're like, oh, Miss Whoever, so glad to see you. So that therapist has built themselves to be a reinforcer. So that goes into what is a reinforcer. Okay. It's something that increases the likelihood that a behavior will occur in the future. So it's a good thing, right? So if they're good behaviors, we want those behaviors to go up and stay that way. Types of reinforcers. So there are edibles and there are tangibles. Edibles, cookies, yay. Chips and things like that. What I wish my son would eat, fruits and vegetables. Unfortunately, it's a battle that I choose not to fight. Tangible, Legos, some dolls, and then the iPad. I have that struggle at home a lot. These are all types of reinforcers. So pop quiz. Don't worry, it's not super bad. Think of some things that are edible, reinforcers for your child. Got them? Anybody want to share? Gummy bears. Okay. I like those. Peanut butter M&Ms. So those are all great, edible reinforcers that I'm sure that if you just had them on you, your kid would come right up to you and you just hand them right to them and they would just be super happy and excited that you gave them that. So you can pair yourself with the edibles as well, to where you just have that and you just give them that and they know that I'm going to get something good that they love. What are some tangible reinforcers for your child? The what? Going to the park. Okay.
Squishy ball where when you squish it, it pops out the holes. It looks weird.
Yeah, those are, the little stress balls. Okay. Perfect. Yep. For my son, he loves Xbox and iPad. So I can get him motivated to pretty much do anything if those are involved. So it's good to know like the different reinforcers that your kids have, so that way you can keep in mind like, hey, I asked you to do this, so first do this, and then you can have your preferred item reinforcer. So what to do before you start pairing? Sorry, I'm going to be like tapping a lot. First thing you need to do is dedicate some time to pairing. No interruptions, between 2 to 15 minutes, and if you're having such a great time during pairing, then you can make it longer. It's really up to you and how long you want to, but you want to make sure that you have some designated uninterrupted time. So if you have other children in the house, maybe give them something to do, go hang out with dad or go hang out with your siblings, or during their dinner time, find other times, just a certain amount of time that you can just spend with that one child. No interruptions. So in my therapy room, I actually encourage all of my therapists to pair with each child for 5 minutes before we start the session. So every therapy room has a different schedule. For me, we go outside at around 1:30, so the therapists spend time with each child pairing before they start placing demands. So they have 5 minutes beforehand where they just play, whether they play with just the therapist or whether they play together in a group, or the two kids are playing together, and if they're playing together nicely, then we just kind of let them play and get paired with the room, get paired with the therapist, get paired with the other children that are in the room. So it's really an important process to me for them to be happy in the classroom. Because I don't know about you guys, but I wouldn't want to walk into a room and somebody just tell me, go sit down, go do some work. I would like for somebody to come in, greet me, say hello, how's your day going? Let's play with something. What do you want to do today? Things like that. And then it also gives them the opportunity to see what reinforcers they want to play with today. So, yesterday it could have been Play-Doh, and then today if they come in, they might go straight to the Legos. So it really gives the therapist an opportunity to see what the client's reinforced by today. All right, so what does pairing look like? Looks like playing. So you just look like you're playing and having fun. Everybody should be smiling. No, there should be no crying, but sometimes that can happen too. If that happens, just stop. All right, so what makes pairing so much fun for the child? No demands are placed. You're not telling the kid anything to do. The child is in control the entire time during pairing. And you follow the child's interest. So naturally, and I do this as well, and this is before I got into ABA, I was naturally just telling my kid what to do. Play like this, look at this, watch what I'm doing, things like that. Those are a lot of demands, stack it on top. Those telling him what to do. Now, no demands. So I'm stacking it, I'm not saying anything, and then the kid just is like, you're stacking. Yeah, I am stacking. Mom, do it like this. So then I'm doing it like that. So the child is telling me what to do. I'm the one getting the demands, but I'm not placing any demands at all during that time. And if the child wants to play with Legos, and I absolutely am not into Legos, that day I'm going to be into Legos. I'm going to just play. If a child decides to play with some gooey slime or some Play-Doh and I don't like touching it, that day I'm going to, just because that's what the child wants to play with.
So
And you,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry, but isn't the whole thing putting a demand on them because you're forcing them to spend at least 5 to 10 minutes? Like, should it be an organic thing? Should it be like they come to you and you're like, okay, great, this is a great opportunity for these 5 minutes of pairing?
Nope, so most of the time,
Instead of, like, making it a situation, because then you are forcing that situation as it is. Like, the whole thing is.
right, so most of the time what you're doing is you see the child playing already, and then you just kind of come over and you start playing as well.
Got it.
So you're not, I mean, if you can, if you see like other toys around and you want to start playing with something and the child comes over, then you can start then. But if you already see the child playing with something, you can just kind of bring yourself over and then say, wow, I really, look at you playing. That's pretty cool, and then you just start playing with the child. You're not asking the child to play with you. You're not telling them to show you what they're doing. You just see them playing, or you're playing with something and then they come over by themselves, or you just kind of jump in.
Okay, got it.
Mhm.
Thank you.
No problem. And this is maybe what you'll end up looking like during the pairing process. Sounds easy, right? It is actually a lot harder than you imagine. So let's break down some rules. So this was one of the hardest processes for me to get when I first started my training, because I can teach a kid how to name letters, I can teach a kid how to tell me what they want, I can do all those things, but when it comes to pairing, it's really hard to keep those demands away, because naturally you want to just show them how to do things. You want to teach them how to answer questions. You want to teach them, look, this is a car, this is a wheel, things like that. But it's really hard to not place demands. So this is one of the processes for me that took me some time. And just know that it's going to take time. You're not going to be able to just stop placing demands immediately. But as long as you have these rules that we're going to go over in the back of your head now, you're going to be like, oh, that was a demand. I shouldn't have said that. So the first rule, number 1, no demands are placed. This means that do not try to interact with the child. Let the child interact with you, and then you respond. So we're going to break this down. Words to avoid, okay? Because this was the easiest way for me to kind of remember not placing demands. Look. Look is a demand. Whether we are just getting them to attend to something. Now, if they say look, then you look. Make sure you follow them. But don't say look, because you're trying to get them to now look at something that you're doing, and that defeats the purpose of not placing demands. Where? Where's the car? That's another demand. Where's this? Where's that? You're not asking any questions. So these are just some words. Show. Show me the car, show me the wheel, show me this. It's just so natural for us to want to teach our kids, especially because they're ours and we want to make them, we want to teach them new things and learn. And one more, give. Give me the car, give me the purple, give me the, things like that. That's another one. So these are all demand starters. So I put some examples over here on how to switch it up. So, hey, look, let's play. Instead of saying that, say, this is so much fun. Because they're usually already playing and they're already having fun. So instead of getting them to come over and play with you, you just go and play with them. Give me the toy. Instead say, that's an awesome toy. Just making statements about the environment. The next one is, show me the wheels. Instead, just say it has wheels. So these are just some different ways to interact during pairing without placing demands and just making it very solid that you're just stating facts about the environment. Believe it or not, when you're saying things like this, they're still listening and they still can pick up on the things that you're saying, and they will still learn if it's motivating enough for them to pick up. Number 2, The child is in control. So the first thing is, do not take any items away from the child. Never. Instead of taking items from the child, state facts about what's happening, and if the child takes it away from you, let it go. Do not try to get it back. That was one of the hardest things for me in the beginning because, you naturally want to teach them and you want to show them different things, and then you just kind of go to grab something just to show them, but then you ended up just taking something away. And the biggest way to get into a tantrum is to taking something. So if you want to stay away from a tantrum or any of those behaviors that we're trying to decrease, don't take it away. Rule number 3. Oh, wait, what happened? Okay, rule number 2. Did I mess that up? I did. Okay. So the child is in control. Continued. If the child asks you a question, answer them. So most of the time, if the child usually doesn't really interact with you or you have to prompt a lot of communication and they ask you a question or they say something to you, reinforce them. Yeah, like, oh, Mom, can I have the car? Yeah, you can have the car. Have it. Have all the cars. Woo, good job. Mom, is it blue? Like, look, blue. Like, yeah, that is blue. Just making statements about what they're saying. It's going to be a big deal when they're actually talking to you without you kind of placing a demand for them to respond to you. If the child makes appropriate sounds, you can even reinforce those sounds. So like if they're playing with a train and they're like, choo-choo, good job, you're saying choo-choo, very nice, and just kind of keep reinforcing with those appropriate context sounds or words and things like that. So for instance, if this little guy, I'm going to call him Billy, if he's sitting there playing with the truck, I would say something, and he's just being quiet, I would say something like, whoa, the truck, you're making it go so fast. That's pretty awesome. No demands, just stating about what he's doing. If he starts saying, beep, beep, yeah, the truck can say beep and say, move out of the way, things like that. I'm not going to make him say anything that I want him to say. I'm just going to make statements about what a truck does or what a truck has, things like that. Rule number 3, follow the child's interest. This is like how I would love for a room to look, but do not choose what to play with. So a lot of times we're so eager to teach our children how to play with things and how to interact with things and how to do things appropriately. We always kind of like choose what to play with or what the kids should play with. Let them play with whatever they want. You just kind of follow them. Do not choose it for them. Let them pick. And you could even, if you're not really sure, you could even put toys like all over the place, and they have like a variety of things that they could, play with, and from there you kind of just see which one they want to play with that day and then just kind of follow them. With my luck, I would have like a bunch of stuff out and my kid would go the whole other way. So I don't know if anybody else has that problem, but that's what happens with me. If the child moves on to the next activity before cleaning up and you want to continue pairing, you have 2 options. Don't panic. Pairing does not have to be over. You can either follow the child to the next activity or the next toy and continue pairing. So we're over here playing and we're looking at colors and and shapes, and the next thing you know, the child gets up and runs over to the Legos. So you can just move on. Just follow the child and say, okay, you're done with this, cool, let's go over there. Like, awesome. Or you can stay behind, you can clean up the mess, and then follow to continue pairing. If you want to end pairing at that time, you can, because the child's moved on, and then from there just kind of, fade yourself out. But you don't have to stop if you don't want to, especially if you have that dedicated time set aside already, and sometimes it's hard to get that time, and when you do have it, you want to kind of utilize it. All right, so what we learned not to do during pairing. We're not going to place demands. No demands. We're not going to make the child play with things that we want them to play with. We're not going to make the child play how we want them to with the toy. And we're not going to take items away from the child. We're just going to let it go. I keep thinking about that song in my head now. And we're never going to make any negative comments or statements while we are playing with the child, while we're pairing. What we learned we should do during pairing. Rule number 1, no demands placed. Rule number 2, the child is in control. Rule number 3, follow the child's interest. Those are the main 3 things. If you can remember these 3 rules, then you'll be off to a good start with the pairing. Additional important factors. Use a happy and friendly voice when you're talking to the child, and don't make negative statements. So, in the beginning, and I've trained a lot of people in pairing at the Scott Center, so what happens is you're like, you try to be as enthusiastic as you can at first, but then you kind of get shy even with your own kids sometimes. I mean, I tried to practice with mine at first, and it was hard. So it's like, you see them doing things, and they're like rolling the car, like, whoa, yeah, you're rolling the car. But that doesn't really make a big deal, right? So if they're rolling the car, you're like, whoa, you're rolling the car. I mean, it could be something that they've been doing for years, but just making a big deal out of it is an important factor, because you want them to hear the change in your tone. You want it to be happy, so you want them to understand that you're happy and see that you're happy. So facial expression, body language, all those things in the voice, the tone in your voice has a big factor in how you're presenting the pairing. Because if you're pairing and you're like, oh, you pushed the car, I mean, doesn't sound really exciting. So if they do it again, they're going to probably turn their back and just start doing their own thing over here. And do not make the child play with what you want or how you want them to play. So those are the main things on what you should do. How to end pairing. Be polite and let the child know that you're done playing. So if your time is up and you've set the timer and you're like, okay, I need to get out of this now. You're just like, oh, thank you so much for playing with me. I'm going to go finish cooking. Get up and just walk away. If they want you to stay, then, you can make the proper statements like, maybe we'll play again later, things like that. But just let them know that you're done. Making a statement or even, just saying something is a big deal, because they probably enjoyed that time as well, pairing with you, because they weren't getting any demands from you at that time. All right, so I have a video that models pairing, and it's a great video because it's an in-home video from a mom and a therapist, and it's a therapist that's actually made this pairing video, but she's providing services, but she's spending her time before session pairing, so I'm hoping that you guys can hear it. And there's a dog and all kinds of stuff. I just love this video when I found it.
Wow.
So she's the therapist and this is the client. You see how you took that from her?
Hello? Is Mikey there? Oh. Dun, dun, dun.
Hello? Is Mikey there? Hello? Hello, friends? Hello? Hello? Is Honey here? I am here. You want anything? I can do one of the things. Dun, dun, dun. I'll bring it. Let me use. Hello? Is Mikey there? Hello? Hey! Silly. Green hat? And a green hat on you? Okay, let's go upstairs. Let's go. See you soon. Bye. Hello. I'm gonna put oop, and I got all these pieces. I got red and blue. That's smiley face. I want to swing. Ready? Sure. Ready? Okay. Great, using your words, Mike. Ready?
So I love this video because it shows so many different components of pairing and what she was doing. Like, she was so much fun. The little brother came out and wanted to play, and she wasn't placing any demands. He took a toy from her, and she kind of was like, okay, you know, like caught herself before she said anything. There's a bunch of things going on in the background. He really wasn't paying attention to anything that was happening except for what they were doing. She was doing different things with the marble run track, where she was using it as a phone, and then eventually he just started picking up on it and he started imitating her. And then she turned it into a session where she was getting him to request for, different things. So he was requesting swinging, he was requesting putting him in the box and tickles and all kinds of things. So just from the little bit of pairing that she was doing in the beginning, it turned into a bunch of other things where she was able to contrive opportunities for him to learn from her and place demands. So I really love that video. If you guys want, I can give that link so you can watch it again, because it's a great video on how to pair and what pairing really should look like. Does anybody have any questions about that video? Yes?
We actually had a question on Facebook. It was from earlier, but the video sort of answered it, so I just want to clarify it.
Mm-hmm.
You had said earlier, when you're playing with the child, to not have them clean up at that time. The question is that parents have asked that shouldn't the child learn to clean up, and when should they do that? Should it be done after the pairing, or when should that be done?
Right, after the pairing.
Okay. So
after you've ended the pairing session, that's when you want to go in and you want to get the child to clean up. So in this instance, the child was done playing with the items. He started cleaning up by himself. So then what she did is she just reinforced him cleaning by himself and started helping him with cleaning up. And she made a statement where, "Good job cleaning up. I love it when you clean up." And then she helped him kind of finish it up.
So if the child doesn't automatically do it himself, how do you coerce the child to start cleaning?
So you would want to end pairing, and you would kind of give it a little break, let the child finish, and then you would want to go over and place your demand. Good? Does anybody else have questions? No? Okay. So here's I made just a few scenarios because I know that each child is different, so I tried to think a little bit outside of the box. My kid loves to watch iPad and doesn't really seem to be interested in toys or people. So what you can do is, while the child watches the iPad, just position yourself to watch the iPad with the child. You can make small little positive statements on what the child is watching. So I have some clients where they love the iPad and they really don't like anything else, and that's usually their main reinforcer in the therapy room. And what I do is just kind of sit with them, and if they're watching Thomas the Train, for the however many time that we've seen it before, I just kind of watch the video with them and say something like, "Oh, look, it's Thomas again. What's he gonna do today?" Just little things like that. Or if they are sitting nicely while they're watching the video, I would make statements like, "Well, I love it when you're sitting," just things like that to reinforce the appropriate behaviors whenever I am pairing, and if they are just on the iPad. Just don't ask, "What are you watching?" because it's evident. You can already see what they're watching. So things like that. I actually tried to make videos with some of the kids in my therapy room, and there was a point where I had 3 kids standing by me watching the iPad with me because they were all so engaged in what I was talking about to one of the kids that 2 other kids came over and we were all watching the iPad together. And I think it was like Dora the Explorer. So it was really cool. So this is kind of like what I meant by positioning yourself. You don't have to, if they're sitting on your lap and they're watching the iPad, you can do it like that. Just kind of getting closer. I know that there's some kids that if you kind of get too close, they kind of start moving away from you. Just kind of work your way closer and closer each time. And that'll eventually become you pairing yourself with the iPad when they're playing with the iPad, instead of saying things like, "Oh, you're on the iPad again," things like that. My son watches iPad all the time. He loves YouTube and he's into gaming and all that stuff, and it drives me crazy some days because he's got those headphones on and he's watching, the YouTuber guys, and he wants to be a YouTuber when he grows up. College is the way to go. But he's, I'm like, I have to pair myself with what he likes, So I'm like, "Look, what are you watching today? What's going on in that video? Is that Fortnite? I don't understand how they play that game." Things like that, to where I'm just watching him watch the iPad and just making different statements. Some of those were demands. That's not what pairing is, but you just want to make different statements like, "Oh, that guy's jumping. I didn't know you could jump in that game." Just different things where you're just making statements about what they're watching. And my son absolutely loves it, and he's like thinking that his mom's into Fortnite, and I'm totally not, but he's probably watching right now too. Busted. Okay. So here's the scenario of my kid runs away each time I get too close to play with him or her. So this is where I mentioned before. Begin by just watching what the child plays with. If you have something similar, move to an area close. So if they love playing with Legos and they just like playing by themselves, just get some other Legos and play by yourself over here, and then just kind of move your way closer and closer each time. So that way the child can see that you're not coming to place demands. You're not coming to make them clean up. You're just here to play. And then that way they can associate you. When they're playing, you're playing. Like, this is a time we can all kind of play together. So it continues to say, in a way that the child can see, but you are not engaging with the child. If you're able to scoot towards the child each time you spend a time pairing, getting your child to sit by you while you're playing would be the first thing to get accomplished before you start officially pairing. So just getting closer and closer, and your BCBA can help you with that. So questions? Nobody? That makes me feel good. Okay. If you have questions that you can think of later, feel free to message, and I'll try to answer them. All right, so here are your parent training credit questions. And you can just put A, B, or C. I think that would be fine. So the first question is, who picks an activity during pairing? A, the parent, B, the child, C, the sibling. Does anybody want to take a guess? Go ahead. B, yep. It should highlight. Oh, no. I'll go back. So yes, B, the child. Second question, placing demands such as cleanup are okay during pairing? No. Good. If the child takes something from you during pairing, what should you do? Say don't do that, encourage, yep, let it go. Let it go. Just remember that song from Frozen. I'll keep that up for a few more minutes. Yes. Yes. So what I usually go to is just stating facts about what's happening in the environment. If we're playing with Legos, I'm naming colors, I'm naming what I'm talking about what I'm building, I'm talking about what they're building, but I'm not asking any questions about what they're doing. Maybe assuming about what they're doing. Oh, looks like you're building, looks like you're building a house, or, that's really tall, think maybe it's a tower, things like that. And thank you, and we can pair. But if you have further questions, just get with your BCBA and they'll be able to answer them, especially if you're having a hard time with pairing at home or anything like that. And that's it. I'll put those questions back up so that way they can stay up for a little bit. And if anybody wants, I'm happy to help with pairing. If anybody wants to try, I know some of you guys brought your kids, so if you want to do like a quick pairing session, I can do that. If not,
I'm not sure where my child disappeared to. Both of them, but they want to know.
Can you have me go get them? I can go get them.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
All right, I have a question.
Okay.
So how do you pair with an older child? So like you mentioned when they're playing their games like
Mhm.
Fortnite or whatever, which I have a couple of them in the house that are very engaged, and it seems difficult to get them off of it. So how do you, when they have the headphones on and they're engaging in this game, how do you pair with them if they have the headphones on and they're engaging?
So what I would recommend, or what would probably be the best thing, what I've tried already, is watching the game with them, and just saying that you want to see how the game works. Like, can I sit and just watch you? I just want to see how it works and what it is that you're playing. The big thing is that with games like that, some of the kids like to play them by themselves because they are afraid of what the parents are going to see the game doing. So just kind of be aware of that and try to not make any of those negative statements and things like that, and just kind of know that this game is one of those kind of games with fighting and weapons and things like that, so you kind of have to be mentally prepared before you go into that, and just sitting and watching them play without making any negative statements.
Someone also asked, can you please let parents know why pairing is important?
Pairing is very important, so I had that on one of the beginning slides. The point of pairing, which is also the importance of pairing, which is it makes you, pairing with good things makes you very fun and interesting, but one of the big ones that we use in therapy is it helps you gain instructional control. It also makes things so that way the kid can, when you are placing demands, the kid is more likely to follow through with those demands because you are pairing and you are spending time just playing. We just get so much into the routine of placing demands, that we forget that they're kids and we need to play too. So it's very important to become fun and interesting to your child, also to gain instructional control, and it makes you a reinforcer. So, and it also kind of builds a relationship and a bond.
Is there one time better than the other to pair? For instance, morning as opposed to afternoon, evening. Is there any particular time?
I think that depends on your child. If your child is a cranky child in the morning, I would totally stay away. But if your child is happy in the morning and you see those different, moods and things like that, I would definitely go from there. But I think really if a child is able to just be in control and lead, I think they'll be happy to do that at any point in the day. But you know your child the best, so you have to kind of pick and choose your times. Hi. Whoa, a net. You're going to catch some butterflies? I'll put this questions back up.
Wow, that's a really cool toy, Liam. I love how you thrash it around.
Yeah. Perfect. Perfect.
What are you showing me, buddy? Oops, question.
You see
It's
how that,
hard.
yeah, it becomes, but you start catching yourself.
Email that to parents or
Yeah, I can email it to you.
where should I come?
Daddy.
An email.
Well, you have it on there, and, yep, and I know exactly who that is, so
Oh,
I'll
you
make
do?
sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Were you by the Scots or no?